atria.
Right,
and a right atrium and a left atrium. They do look like little bitty, almost ears. They have little wrinkles on the edge. The little wrinkled edge is the auricle. But the whole cavity, it's hollow. The whole chamber is an atrium. So the right atrium, on our models, you have to open it up at the back to get into the left atrium. But you can see it has that sort of wrinkled flap to the front edge. So that is the auricle. All right, then we have the big, meaty part of the heart that's these hollow chambers that are really muscular. There's a ventricles, right? So right ventricle, left ventricle. On the inside, you can see right ventricle versus left ventricle. They are separated by that muscle wall. You're going to be needing to identify valves. Remember the flaps of tissue that separate the chambers. So this flap here, it's the tricuspid valve. There's actually multiple names they all go by, but tricuspid is probably the most commonly used name. It can also be called the right atrioventricular valve. This valve up in here, the flap, bicuspid valve, or mitral valve, or left atrioventricular valve. You guys remember the little stringies, the cord-like tendons? Cordi tendinii. Make it Latin. Cordi tendinii. And they attach to these nipple-like bits of muscle that stick up, papilla or papillary muscles. So this is an old model, sort of messed up here, but you'll see these on our models, or the hearts that we're going to dissect. So the actual solid flap is the valve, the strings, cordi tendinii, and then whatever muscle they attach to that sticks up a little bit, that's a papillary muscle. What else do you guys need to know? We'll get to the vessels. So the septum, of course, refers to the wall. So in between the ventricles, that's called the interventricular septum. And the atria, looking in the atria, there would be a wall separating the two atria from each other. So that's the interatrial septum. On the interatrial septum, you should see a slight depression. You guys, I don't know if you remember that, but that's what is a hole before you're born. You take your first breath, and that closes off, or it's supposed to. So the depression that's left is called the fossa ovale. It is a foramen before. We call it the foramen ovale during fetal circulation, but when it closes off, it's a fossa. We should see it. It depends on the right view, if we can get it or not. That depression, there's some on your list, but it's part of the interatrial septum. Valves. Okay, we need the vessels. So going to the major vessels out of the ventricles. So from the right ventricle, blood would flow to the pulmonary trunk here, this artery. What is that valve called? Those three flaps. Remember? Pulmonary, semilunar valves. All right, because each flap looks like a half moon. So pulmonary semilunar valve, way under here in that left ventricle going up to the aorta. That valve is the aortic semilunar valve. So remember, the heart is sort of very complex structure, parts twisted over. We have to really get in there to get a good look. We might be able to go down through the aorta to see that, or up through that left ventricle to see that one. It will depend on the heart. Major arteries and veins, pulmonary trunk here. These would be pulmonary arteries coming off the pulmonary trunk. So they're going out to the lung. They come back from the lung with highly oxygenated blood, so these are pulmonary veins that would be connecting to the left side of the heart. You can also see superior vena cava, a little bit of the inferior vena cava. There is a vein back here that we have coronary vessels that are taking blood to the heart muscle itself. This slightly enlarged vein is what? It's a sinus. The coronary sinus. Alright, so that's the coronary sinus. We will see it. The blood that goes into the right atrium can only come from superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and coronary sinus. All three of those vessels are the vessels that connect to the right atrium.
What was that one? Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry.
The ligamentum, what are they called? Arteries. Arteries, right? Make sure I tell you the right thing. Arteriosum, remnant artery, not arteries. Yeah, ligamentum arteriosum. Arteries is in the liver. Ligamentum Arteriosum is a remnant of a vessel that was present during fetal circulation. It's going to look just like white connective tissue ligament. On the model, it's that little bitty white colored space. It connects the pulmonary vessels with the aorta to bypass the left side during fetal circulation. Papillary muscles we got, trabeculae carni we need to look at. What else? I thought there was something else. The pectinate, okay. Pectinate muscles. I'll make sure I'm telling you these, I might have to look them up. Pectinate muscles are the ridges of muscles you see in the atrium. The trabeculae carni are the ridged muscle that you see in the wall of the ventricle. I want to double check that, make sure I'm not reversing this. Okay, pectinate, atria, trabeculae carni inside the ventricles. Alright, let's see if we can find them on these models here. I'm going to have you guys, these actually have been cut into. There's a slice down each side. Depending on how they cut these out of the animals, sometimes they sort of chop off the atria, sometimes they just chop off the vessels like the aorta and the pulmonary valve, so sometimes we might not quite see everything here. There's always a lot of fat tissue around the heart as well. So these have not been cut into, so you are welcome to get one, look at its superficial features, and then try to cut into it yourself, sort of modeled after how these have been cut. So work on these. I'll get a couple more trays. You can take it back or do it here. But then I'll review with you guys all to find all the parts that you need to on your list.